There are moments when speaking is surrendering, when they yell at you, when they underestimate you, when they stab you with the dagger of indifference. There, if you respond with words, you've already lost, because you're trying to convince someone who doesn't want to listen to you. You're trying to defend something that, if it were truly yours, you wouldn't need to justify. We live in a noisy era. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone criticizes. Everyone wants to have the last word. But the more you talk, the more you empty yourself. You lose strength. You lose respect. And worst of all, you lose control of yourself. Stoic silence is not indifference or cowardice. It's strategy. It's power. It's looking chaos in the eye without moving an inch. It's understanding that fire is not extinguished with more fire. It consumes itself only when you take away its oxygen. When you choose silence, you regain peace. But not just any peace. A peace that imposes, a calm that discomforts, a stillness that screams louder than any word. And yes, it can hurt to remain silent when they provoke you, when they insult you, when they want to humiliate you. But that's where character is forged, in not giving them the spectacle they expect, in showing them that they don't have the power to take you out of yourself. This video is not for those seeking revenge. It's for those seeking respect, for those who are tired of falling into others' games, for those who are ready to stop reacting and start governing themselves. Today, you're going to learn 8 ways to use silence as a weapon. 8 ways to transform yourself from within without saying a single word. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. 1. Strike with silence, not with voice. When someone attacks you, the first thing they want is a reaction. They don't want to understand you. They don't want to listen to you, let alone respect you. All they seek is for you to fall, for you to lose yourself, for you to lose your cool. They throw a provocation disguised as a question, a mockery or a criticism, hoping you'll react with fury, with anxiety, with desperate explanations. Because at that moment, you're not speaking from your center. You're begging for validation. And that's when you lose. Losing doesn't always look like defeat. Sometimes it seems like you're winning the argument, that your arguments are stronger, that you manage to leave the other person speechless. But if you had to lose your cool to do it, you've lowered yourself. You've entered the game they put in front of you. You've stopped being you. The one who controls the energy of the moment wins. The one who doesn't need to raise their voice for their presence to be felt wins. The one who doesn't explain themselves because they understand themselves wins. That's what silence does. It disarms. And it hurts. Because when someone expects you to explode and you don't, they encounter something stronger than your scream, your calm. A calm that is not passive. It is tense, firm, like the edge of a sword. A calm that makes clear that you're seeing everything, that you understand everything, but that it doesn't affect you, that you're so above that game that it's not even worth responding. Striking with silence is not surrendering. It's not bowing your head. It's not swallowing everything without saying anything. It's another way of fighting, a more dangerous, more elegant, more lethal one. Because when you silence with intention, with self-control, with presence, the other person sees themselves in the void. They hear themselves alone. They feel ridiculous. Without realizing it, you're teaching them how unnecessary all that noise was. Stoicism understood this perfectly. Epictetus said that what matters is not what happens, but how you react. And reacting is not always acting. Sometimes, the most powerful reaction is not to move, not to speak, not to respond. It's letting the other person crash against their own energy. Let them consume themselves without your emotional fuel. Because the more they scream, and insist, the more they reveal themselves, the more they show what they are, and you, meanwhile, remain intact. Striking with voice is easy. Anyone can scream. Anyone can say the first thing they feel. But screaming is not power. Screaming is what someone who lost control does, who is desperate to be right, who needs to win to feel valuable. Instead, silence does not seek to win. It seeks to master oneself. It seeks to conserve strength. It seeks to clearly decide when to speak and when not to. And here's the secret. When you choose silence, you're buying time. Time to think. Time to see the situation from above. Time to decide whether it's worth acting or better to let go. You're using silence as a shield, but also as a sword. Because every word you hold back is not weakness. It's an affirmation that you decide. You choose when to speak. You choose when it's worth going into battle. Silence is uncomfortable because whoever does not react cannot be manipulated. Whoever does not speak does not leave doors open for more criticism, more poison, more emotional garbage. Whoever keeps silent becomes unpredictable, and the unpredictable commands respect. It's not about always being silent. It's about understanding that not everything deserves a response, that not everyone deserves an explanation, that there are moments when speaking is to lower oneself, to get dirty, to stain your energy with the misery of others. And in those moments, silence is not only wise, it's brutal. Striking with voice may seem strong, but it wears out. Striking with silence is different. It doesn't need noise. It doesn't need witnesses. It only needs you to stand firm, without fear, without hurry, without the need to prove anything. Because the one who is in control doesn't need to demonstrate it. 2. Let them seek you in the echo. Silence is like a shadow that walks with you. It makes no noise, but it's there. It doesn't impose, but it's felt. It enters the room before you and stays after you leave. Its presence without a word, its impact without effort. And whoever masters their shadow masters their power. Talking too much makes you predictable. It exposes you. It wears you out. People stop listening to you attentively because they know you're always going to respond, that you'll always be there to justify yourself, defend yourself, or explain every emotion that shows on your face. But the one who knows how to keep silent becomes a mystery, and what is not understood is respected or feared. That's the advantage of those who choose to disappear from the conversation without disappearing from the scene. Silence has an echo. It leaves a vibration in the air that forces the other to look at themselves, to ask questions, to imagine what you might be thinking, what you really feel, what you might be about to say. That echo weighs more than any argument, because it forces the other to build your message within their mind. And in that effort to decipher you, respect is born. Doubt is born. The need to understand you is born. In a world desperate to have an opinion, the one who remains silent becomes magnetic. Not for what they say, but for what they don't need to say. Not for what they show, but for what they purposely hide. It's as if, in the midst of all the noise, a pause emerges that no one asked for, but everyone feels. A dense, powerful pause that cuts the air. A pause that makes you turn your head and look at the one who is saying nothing, just to confirm that they are still there. And yes, they are there, in silence, but more present than anyone. It's not about becoming inaccessible or keeping quiet out of fear. It's a conscious decision. It's knowing that your voice is worth more when you don't use it all the time, that your word is a valuable resource, not something that is distributed out of anxiety or need for approval. The voice of the wise is saved for what is necessary, not to feed the emptiness of others. Whoever truly respects you will seek you even in your absence. Even in that space, you leave blank, because silence becomes a filter. It separates those who just wanted to manipulate you from those who truly value you. And in that space you leave, the true bond is revealed. It's easy to think that if you don't explain everything, you'll be misunderstood. That if you don't respond, you'll be accused. That if you don't react, they'll think you don't care. But that's not your problem. Your responsibility is not to control the minds of others. Your responsibility is to stand firm in your center, knowing that you don't need to give explanations every time someone doesn't understand your silence. Stoicism sees silence as a form of clarity, a fertile ground where emotions lower their volume, where ideas settle, and where character takes shape. It's not passivity, it's preparation, it's mastery, it's choosing to be above impulse. Whoever can't stand your calm is not looking to know you, they're looking to break you. And that's where you have to stay still, tense inside perhaps, but unbreakable on the outside, because that silence that bothers them so much is your protection. It's your response. It's your victory. Becoming someone who leaves a mark in the echo is becoming unforgettable without needing to force your presence. It's withdrawing from the scene without losing your place, because even without speaking, you're saying something that not everyone is prepared to understand. And there lies the strength, in being so solid inside that you don't need to shout to be heard, so firm in your value that you don't need to explain it, so clear with yourself that your soul doesn't tremble for not responding. Because the one who knows their worth knows that silence also has a voice. It's just that not everyone hears it. 3. Topple empires with indifference. There are looks that burn more than 1,000 words and silences that make thrones tremble. Indifference is that cold fire that doesn't scream, doesn't warn, doesn't argue. It just devastates, like the ice that breaks the rock without making a sound. It's the energy that destroys without touching, the force that topples without getting dirty. In the face of offense, contempt, emotional manipulation, or betrayal, the most expected reaction is an explosion, crying, screaming, begging, defending oneself. Because at that moment, the one who attacks you is not seeking the truth. They are seeking control. They want to see that their presence still dominates you, that their words still affect you, that their actions still have the power to move your world. But indifference, that hurts them on another level, because it not only denies attention, it denies existence. And in a world obsessed with being seen, to ignore is to destroy. Indifference is not hatred. Hatred is still a bond. There is still emotion, there is still reaction, there is still connection. But the one who becomes indifferent becomes free, because they are not tied to the need for revenge, nor the desire to explain themselves, nor the impulse to correct what is already rotten. They simply walk away. They turn off. They erase themselves. And that, for those who live off conflict, is unbearable. The Stoic does not hate. The Stoic does not stoop to feel anger for what they cannot control. The Stoic lets go. They let it be. Not because they don't care, but because they have understood that there are battles that are won without raising a single weapon. And that is one of the greatest, to deny your energy to those who do not deserve it. There are people who feed off your reactions, who need to see you upset to feel important, who need to see you confused, resentful, hurt, to justify their power over you. And at first, it's hard to let go. You want to make clear what you feel. You want them to understand the damage they have done. You want them to acknowledge their mistake. But they won't, because their goal was never to understand you. It was to dominate you. And that's where indifference comes in as a sentence. You no longer have a place in my world. Not reacting does not mean not feeling. It means having felt enough to choose peace over war. It means being so above that toxic dynamic that you decide not to be a part of it. Because the bravest thing is not always to attack. Sometimes the bravest thing is not to respond, not to look back, not to explain anything, just to close the door. And the most brutal thing is this: while you decide to live in calm, the other lives in doubt. While you move forward, the other remains trapped in what they do not understand. Your indifference becomes their punishment, because silence can leave space, but indifference leaves a void that screams, a void that weighs, a void that makes it clear that you are not going to come back. Being indifferent is not being cold. It's having standards. It's knowing that not everything deserves your energy, that not everyone deserves your strongest, clearest, most authentic version. It's reserving your presence for those who respect you, for those who know what you're worth, without needing you to explain it. In Stoic practice, to ignore is not to despise, it is to choose where to put your attention. And your attention is your power. What you feed grows. What you ignore dies. And if someone or something is hurting you, the worst thing you can do is keep giving it your focus, because that's where you lose. That's where you wear out. But by turning your gaze, by ceasing to respond, by disappearing emotionally, you're saying everything. You're drawing a line. You're building respect. And sometimes you're toppling an empire, not with screams, not with fights, not with explanations, but with the icy silence of someone who no longer needs anything from anyone. 4. Don't explain the sun. Just shine. Nobody looks at the sun and asks it to justify its light. Nobody stands in front of the sunrise to question whether it deserves to be there. The sun simply appears. It rises. It illuminates. And that's enough, because its presence is its argument. Its existence is its statement. So should you be. Too often, you may have felt pressured to explain yourself, to justify who you are, why you act as you do, why you think what you think, as if your worth depended on your ability to convince others, as if you needed the world's permission to shine. But you don't. You weren't born to be approved. You were born to be real. And sometimes, being real means making others uncomfortable. Every time you try to justify your growth, your silence, your boundaries, or your vision, you are giving your energy to the judgment of others. You are begging for understanding in a world that often doesn't want to understand, only to control. You are extinguishing your fire so that others won't burn. But since when does the sun ask for permission to rise? The Stoic understands that not all battles are fought with words, that not everything is up for discussion, that not everyone deserves an explanation, because those who value you already understand, and those who don't won't understand even if you write them a whole manual. So why lose yourself in that fight? Why open your soul in a place where they only want to use it against you? Shining in silence is one of the most powerful weapons there is. You don't need to defend yourself when your life speaks for you. You don't need to respond when your character has already said it all. You don't need to convince when your results are impossible to ignore. Are you criticized for being at peace, for not reacting, for not playing the game of drama and confrontation? Perfect. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them squirm, trying to find in you some crack that allows them to drag you down to their level. You keep shining, without lowering your head, without apologizing for being different, without shrinking so others can feel big. Don't explain the sun. Don't explain your evolution. Don't explain your silence. Don't explain your boundaries, because the one who wants to understand already has, and the one who doesn't want to won't, even if you shout. Often the explanation is not seeking understanding, it seeks submission. They want you to speak to find your weak point, to invalidate what you feel, to use your transparency against you. And that's where you stand your ground. That's where you choose to remain silent, look straight ahead, and keep walking. Being stoic is having the temperance to know that you don't have to prove anything, that your truth doesn't need embellishments, that your inner peace is worth more than any argument. And that silence is not always surrender. Sometimes it's knowing that it's not worth wearing yourself out in a fight where your mere existence is already bothersome. The world needs more people who dare to be without explaining themselves, who shine without asking for permission, who live without constantly editing their essence to fit in. Because that's true freedom, not living under the judgment of others, not depending on the I like you or the I understand you, living like the sun, on its time, at its pace, with its heat, without apologies. And sure, there will be those who call you arrogant, cold, distant, insensitive, but often that just means they can't manipulate you, that they can't get into your head, that they don't understand how you can stand firm without speaking, without begging, without falling. And that misunderstanding is a sign that you're doing well. Shining is dangerous, because it illuminates what others try to hide, because it bothers those who prefer the darkness. But your duty is not to darken for them. Your duty is to burn, even if others are bothered by the heat. So don't explain the sun, just shine. Let them look at you. Let them envy you. Let them be bothered. Let them try to bring you down. It doesn't matter. Your silence is already confronting them. Your presence is already challenging them. And your light, even if you don't defend it, is already burning what can't reach it. 5. Criticisms die in the void. A flame without oxygen does not burn. An arrow shot into the void does not wound. An insult that finds no recipient dies in the air. Criticisms work the same way. They only have strength if you give it to them. They only hurt you if you decide to pick them up and keep them inside. But if you let them pass, if you do not react, if you do not give them ground to sow, they die alone. Most people do not criticize out of concern. They criticize out of frustration, out of envy, out of a need to feel superior. They speak because they cannot stand the reflection they see in you. Because your way of being at peace, of moving forward, of standing firm, reminds them of everything they are not. And so they attack you. But they do it from afar, from comfort, from cowardice. They await your reaction. They want you to defend yourself. They want it to hurt you. They want you to give them a sign that their words have reached you. Because if they manage to get you to respond, then they have already won. They already have your attention. They already have your energy. And if they manage to get you upset, to explain, to apologize for being who you are, then they also have your respect, even if they do not deserve it. The Stoic is not made of stone, but he does choose what affects him, because he understands that not everything deserves a response, that not every opinion has value, that not all the comments thrown at you from the shadows deserve to be received with light. Sometimes, the smartest thing you can do is do nothing. Let them talk. Let them criticize. Let them wear themselves out while you stay focused on your own thing. Silence in the face of criticism is not weakness, it is mastery. It is knowing that constant explanations are a form of slavery, that living, defending your worth in front of those who do not have their own is a waste of time, because those who want to understand you already do, and those who do not want to will not do so even if you hand them your soul on a platter. There is something more powerful than a well-thought-out response: absolute silence, that void where criticism bounces back without force, where the poisonous word dissolves without echo, where judgment finds no entrance and falls on its own. That void is your shield. It is the space that separates your world from the outside noise. Of course, it's hard. Sometimes the criticism comes from someone close. Sometimes it touches old wounds. Sometimes it hits right where it matters most to you. But that's where your power is tested, not in preventing them from speaking, but in preventing them from dragging you down. Because they are always going to talk. There will always be someone who does not understand your path, who does not accept your way, who cannot stand your calm. But that is not your burden. Silence in the face of criticism is a declaration, a clear message that says, I am not interested in your judgment. I do not need your approval. I am not here to fit into your mental map. I am here to walk my own. And if that bothers you, that problem does not belong to me. Sometimes the best response is to keep moving forward without looking back. Keep shining while they try to extinguish your light with words. Keep growing while their criticisms rot in their own resentment. Because at the end of the day, you are left with your actions, your achievements, your truth. They are left with their opinion, and the opinion without impact is forgotten. Silence is the graveyard of criticisms. There is no discussion, no explanation, no drama. Only a firm calm that says everything without saying anything. And in that calm, criticism loses strength, loses meaning, loses life. Because without your reaction, it has nowhere to live. So do not feed what you want to die. Do not speak with those who only want to destroy you. Do not defend what is already evident. Live in such a way that your example screams louder than any insult. And when they attack you, let their words drown in the void you created to protect yourself. Because there, in that void, is where criticisms die. 6. Respond like a monk in the fire. Imagine a monk in the midst of flames. Chaos surrounds him, heat envelops him, everything screams for him to run, to react, to break. But he does not move. He does not scream. He does not plead. He does not hate. He is just there, calm, whole, firm in his center while the fire tries to devour him. That is the image of someone who has mastered his soul. That is the Stoic attitude you need every time the world tries to set you on fire. You cannot control the fire, but you can control your response. And that is the difference between who survives and who is destroyed. Because in life, the fire comes, sometimes in the form of criticism, sometimes in the form of betrayal, sometimes disguised as indifference or contempt. It pushes you, it burns you, it provokes you, and everything inside you screams to explode. But exploding is what they want, what they expect, what feeds them. Responding like a monk in the fire is not about holding back. It's understanding that there is a force greater than impulse, that you are not your emotion, that you are not obliged to react as they expect, that you can look conflict in the eye and still be you, without lowering yourself, without breaking, without giving control of your energy to anyone. He who masters his interior masters the moment, and he who masters the moment masters the outcome. Because the fire is not extinguished with more fire. It is not controlled by shouting or hitting or returning harm. It is extinguished with presence, with direction, with awareness, with that brutal calm that says, "You will not take me out of myself." In the midst of an argument, a provocation, or an unfair situation, the bravest thing is not always to fight. Sometimes it's to stay still, respond softly, or not respond at all. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you know it's not worth saying. That the price of your peace is higher than the need to be right. Being like that monk in the fire means that you do not define yourself by what happens outside of you. That your power is not in winning arguments, but in not losing yourself in them. That you are not looking to demonstrate strength by shouting, but with control. Because he who masters the internal fire does not need to fight every external spark. In Stoicism, that is the goal. To keep the mind calm in the midst of the storm. To be the master of your emotions, even in pain. To choose not to respond from the wound, but from clarity. And that does not make you weak. It makes you invincible. He who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. And he who does not allow himself to be controlled becomes dangerous to those who depend on chaos. Because your calm disarms them. Your silence confuses them. Your firmness confronts them without needing to touch a single hair. And that burns them more than any word. Responding like a monk in the fire does not mean that you do not feel. It means that you choose what to do with what you feel. That you decide not to act from pain, but from integrity. That you do not give your peace to those who only want to see it broken. And yes, at first, it's hard. The body trembles, the anger appears, the injustice burns. But if you manage to hold on there, in that fire, without moving, you will come out stronger, wiser, freer, because you are no longer a victim of the moment. You are the master of the moment. Every time life tests you, remember the monk in the fire. Remember that there is power in not giving in, that there is dignity in not lowering yourself, that there is immense strength in resisting without attacking. Because sometimes the most powerful act is not to strike, it's to not move. And in that moment, while everything burns around you, while they wait for you to scream or to run, you are there, silent, firm, present, as if the fire were part of you, as if it could no longer harm you, because you understood something that most never understand. He who masters the fire within no longer fears the fire from outside. 7. Walk as one who doesn't need witnesses. There is nothing more powerful than a person who moves forward without the need to be seen, without cameras, without applause, without witnesses, only firm steps, only direction, only purpose. Because the one who walks like this doesn't do it for validation. They do it out of conviction. The noise of the world screams, "Look at me, post everything, expose everything. Let everyone know how hard you strive, how much you suffer, how much you achieve." But that's not strength, it's dependency. It's living tied to the reflection, not the essence. It's walking only if someone applauds you. And that makes you weak. The Stoic walks within. They don't need to be understood, nor admired. They know who they are, they know where they're going, and that's enough. Their life is not a spectacle, it's a journey. And they don't stop due to lack of audience. They continue, even if no one sees them, even if they are misunderstood, even if they walk alone. Greatness doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it's in the silence of a person who gets up every day to give their best, without posting it, without explaining it, without justifying it. because they understand that true respect is not demanded, it's built, step by step, in the darkness, in the constancy, in the discipline that doesn't need applause to exist. To walk as one who doesn't need witnesses is to have such a strong internal clarity that it doesn't go out with the absence of recognition. It's to act with integrity even when no one is watching. It's to do the right thing even if they never thank you for it. And that's rare. That's uncomfortable, because the world is used to appearances. But the one who walks in silence becomes dangerous, uncontrollable, unstoppable, because they don't need anything from anyone to keep moving forward. Do you want respect? Stop looking for it. Live it. Let it show in your actions, in your focus, in your character. Let your walk be so firm that there's no need to announce it. Let your mere presence say more than any word. Walk as one who has nothing to prove, as one who has already validated themselves from within, as one who doesn't depend on the noise because their silence already speaks for them. That's where true freedom is found, not in pleasing everyone, but in not needing to please anyone to continue being you. 8. Inhabit the temple of your calm. Within you, there is a space that no one else can touch, a sacred place, silent, inviolable. That is your temple. It is not built with words, nor with fame, nor with the approval of others. It is built in solitude, in struggle, in resistance, in the daily decision not to let yourself be dragged by the chaos of the world. Calm is not a luxury. It is a responsibility, because without it, you are a slave to every foreign emotion, every external provocation, every opinion that tries to drag you out of yourself. But whoever inhabits their calm governs their life. Society wants you to be accelerated, distracted, reactive, because someone who does not think, who does not breathe, who does not stop, is easy to manipulate. But the one who lives from calm observes before acting, chooses before speaking, decides from clarity, and that makes him unmanageable. The Stoic does not escape from the world. He does not isolate himself. He does not lock himself up. He is in the midst of noise, but he is not part of it. He walks among the tension, but does not let himself be caught. He inhabits his temple even in the midst of fire, because he knows that his real power is not in controlling the outside, but in mastering the inside. And mastering does not mean repressing. It means transforming. It means facing your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses, and deciding from the center, not from fear, not from ego, from truth. Calm is not the absence of conflict. It is stability in the midst of conflict. It is being able to look into the eyes of what hurts and remain firm. It is having a refuge within you that no one else has a key to. Inhabiting your calm is a form of self-respect, of protection, of clarity. It is building a life where you do not sell yourself for attention, where you do not explode for any attack, where you do not drown in what you cannot control. There, in that temple, everything looks different. Insults lose strength. The expectations of others dissolve. Wounds heal in silence. And you, without the need to fight, start to win. Because true mastery is not shouted, it is felt. And whoever lives from calm no longer needs to defend themselves, because they can no longer take anything away from him.
Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment "I am Stoic" as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.